There are truths so old and so unsettling that entire generations tried to bury them beneath polite silence. Among them is a truth about the desire of those marked by destiny, the chosen ones. You were born into a body, yes, but your spirit hums at a voltage this world was never built to carry. And right there, in the tight seam between flesh and spirit, the deepest conflict of the called begins, the hidden, holy dimension of longing. Religion taught slogans about purity. Society demanded restraint dressed as respectability. Culture coated everything in shame and called it wisdom. Yet no one dared name what happens when a chosen soul truly wakes up. Ordinary definitions of sexuality stop fitting like borrowed clothes. It isn't sin. It isn't addiction. It isn't a morality play. It is energy, raw, ancient, charged. It is a fire that does not originate here, and yet insists on burning inside you. If you're honest, you've felt it in ways you rarely admit. Nights when a surge of desire moved through you like a signal imprinted into your very DNA. Encounters that felt less like bodies colliding and more like stars aligning, as if your skin briefly remembered the map of heaven, or the reverse. Moments when the chemistry seemed obvious, but your whole being froze because something wiser inside whispered, "Not now. Not this one." Perhaps you've noticed a magnetism toward the wounded, the brilliant, the beautifully broken, the ones whose cracks seem to call for your light. This is the quiet ache of the chosen, the secret, the difference, the sense that your desire doesn't belong to this era's small boxes. While many move through life content with simple appetites, you carry something sacred and volatile, too large for casual explanations. You've wondered, what's wrong with me? The answer is nothing. What you feel isn't a flaw. It's the unmistakable mark of your calling. Stay with me to the end. I am not here to hand you fantasies or theories polished for applause. I'm here to speak lived truth, the hidden side of the chosen one's sexuality that most were too afraid to touch. The patterns you mistook for curses are actually codes. The confusion you dragged like a chain was never madness, it was initiation. Today, I will unveil the veiled, 5 deeply concealed, often misread sexual patterns common to the chosen. With each revelation, the room inside you will get brighter. You will feel seen without being exposed, understood without being reduced. And you will finally recognize that your desire was never sent to break you. It was sent to wake you. Before we cross that threshold, pause and mark this moment. If your chest is humming, if your eyes sting for reasons you can't name, if you feel strangely found, type 99 in the comments. 99 is the seal of completion, the last breath before a new beginning. By writing it, you are closing the chapter of secrecy and opening the door to the liberation of your true spiritual identity. And if you haven't yet, subscribe now. Not for numbers, but for nourishment. What comes next will take you deeper into mysteries most will never dare to face. These words are not for everyone. They are for you, so breathe. Loosen your shoulders, let your heart stand open. From this moment forward, the veil starts to fall. Habit 1. Energetic sexual encounters with the invisible. Have you ever bolted awake at 2:17 a.m., pulse thundering, skin bright with electricity, breath catching like you've just crossed an unseen threshold? No footsteps in the hallway, no voice in the room. And yet your body knows something touched you. Not a dream you can shrug off, not a fantasy you can blame on a movie, but a presence that moved through you with a tenderness or a voltage no ordinary night has ever held. If that sentence lands like recognition, you are not broken, delusional, or alone. You are brushing against one of the most guarded mysteries of the chosen. Intimacy that arrives without a body and leaves a signature you can feel in your bones. For souls marked by destiny, not all union is human. Sometimes desire travels on frequency instead of flesh. It comes as warmth folding around your ribs from nowhere and everywhere at once. It comes as a current up the spine, a kiss without lips, a weight across the sternum like hands you cannot see but somehow trust, or don't. These visitations don't consult clocks or courtesy. They cross the borders of time and distance, answer longings you never said out loud, and use your body like a doorway between worlds. Here is the paradox most people are too afraid to name. Some of what answers your light is medicine, some is hunger. There are presences that arrive to bless, to steady, to return pieces of you you'd left in old winters. There are others that come to siphon, to borrow your dawn and leave at midnight, to feed on the very radiance you are learning to carry. Chosen ones are beacons in a fog, your field broadcast farther than you realize. What answers that signal depends on the tone you're holding in that hour, peace or panic, clarity or ache, alignment or open wounds calling anything that will answer. This is why one night you rise humming with strength. Your sense is bright and clean for days, as if heaven brushed your cheek on its way through. And another night you wake emptied, shadowed, a language of sorrow in your chest that isn't yours to keep. Every energetic union leaves evidence, a trace in the nervous system, a chord in the subtle body, a tilt in your desires that wasn't there yesterday. Until you learn how to notice, bless and release, you can find yourself carrying fingerprints that don't belong to your future. The ancients were not naive about this. Shamans, mystics, desert mothers and fathers all guarded teachings about nuptials of the soul, encounters where eros and spirit braided into one bright strand. They honored sexual energy for what it is, raw life force, the combustion at the heart of stars, the power that builds worlds and births paths. They also warned that when that fire wakes in someone consecrated to purpose, the unseen takes notice. Allies gather, so do opportunists. Moths and monarchs both answer light. Here is the truth beneath the hush. These encounters are mirrors more than accidents. They tend to come when your spirit is asking for a depth your mouth is not ready to confess, when an old wound is singing to the night for company, when your devotion is bright but your boundaries are blurred, when grief needs a witness and calls down the first responder who will come. To awaken as chosen is to stand at a threshold where ecstasy and danger use the same doorbell. It is to learn the feel of blessing and the feel of trespass, sometimes in the same month. Perhaps you know the catalogue by heart. The press of invisible hands that felt like safety. The heat blooming under your skin that tasted like worship. The sudden chill after, as if something left with more than it brought. None of this means you are cursed. It means you are a portal. Your body is a meeting place where realms exchange messages. The work is not to fear the gift. It is to become its steward. Awareness is your guardrail. Discernment is your consent. You are allowed to say yes to peace and no to intrusion, even when neither knocks in words, because every union writes terms. Even the unseen ones, a brush can bless and pass on. A merge can weave a thread that tugs your mood, bends your appetite, reroutes your day. What feels like holy fire at midnight can become a leash by morning if you don't know how to unhook what isn't yours. And what feels frightening at first can reveal itself as healing once you notice the fruit. Clearer thinking, steadier heart rate, cleaner choices, desire that honors rather than hijacks. Your body is wiser than your hurry. It can tell you which is which if you let it speak before your stories shout. So remember your authority in this. You are not a haunted house. You are a consecrated threshold. You can bless what blesses and release what drains. You can ask, even wordlessly, who sent you, and wait for the answer to register in your breath and your belly. You can invite presence that anchors you deeper into truth and decline energies that only want an audience with your loneliness. You can wake, place a hand over your heart, and say, "Only what serves my calling may remain." You will feel the room change. You will feel yourself return. In time, you will understand the gift inside the strangeness. These encounters are not punishments. They are invitations to mastery. They teach you to read the air. They teach you that your desire is a compass, not a captor. They teach you to partner with the unseen without surrendering your stewardship of this embodied life. And they teach you this crucial mercy. Intimacy, for you, was never meant to be ordinary. It was always meant to be cosmic and, therefore, conscientious. If you have known the invisible embrace, if you have ever woken not with a fading dream, but with the certainty that something ancient met you and left you changed, then you already speak the language of the chosen, whether you wanted to or not. Take one slow breath and keep walking, because where some are visited by fire, others are kept by snow. a season where the soul locks the body to protect the mission, where abstinence arrives not as willpower, but as wisdom. And that silence, holy and bewildering, is the second habit waiting just ahead. Habit 2. The silent abstinence imposed by the soul. Have you ever stood at the edge of yes, pulse warm, breath aligned, chemistry humming like wire, and felt your entire body turn the key and lock? No shame, no fear, no memory barging in to spoil the moment. Just a clean, immovable no rising from somewhere deeper than instinct. To ordinary eyes, it looks like hesitance. To yours, if you listen closely, it is holiness. The chosen do not merge merely skin to skin. They merge essence to essence, and essence refuses what would fracture it. This is why your body has become a gate with discernment. It will not sign contracts your spirit never approved. Because intimacy for you is never a casual scene. It is a covenant written in a language only the soul can read. Every encounter leaves ink, codes braided into your field, traces that either strengthen your center or scatter it to the wind. The world has named this pause cold, detached, and broken. Those labels were forged by people who negotiate with appetite, but do not converse with spirit. Your stillness is not malfunction. It is mercy. It is your inner counsel choosing to protect the mission you carry from entanglements that would dilute it. So the seasons arrive. Not days, not weeks, sometimes months or years where desire is present, but access is sealed. You do not white-knuckle your way through. The gate simply will not open. This is not repression and it is not punishment. It is gestation. In that hush, your system is reweaving itself. Old cords are dissolving. The circuitry is being cleaned and tuned for a different kind of union. One that won't ask you to abandon yourself to be held. People around you will not understand. Friends will worry. Partners will read the boundary as verdict. But behind the curtain of appearances, there is a sacred negotiation happening. Your body and your soul aligning on what your destiny can safely welcome. In long quiets, doubt learns your name. It suggests that silence means you're undesired, unready, unworthy. Let that lie pass through you like smoke. The abstinence of the chosen is spacious, not empty. The ache is real, but it is not an accusation. It is a yearning that wants a home worthy of it. Your spirit refuses smallness because it remembers the shape of the real thing. You are not being punished. You are being preserved. You are not being benched. You are being refined. When the work is finished in the hidden place, you will not have to force open the lock. The seal will lift on its own, and when it does, the union that meets you will not merely satisfy body or soothe loneliness. It will awaken vocation. It will be the kind of meeting that leaves your mind clear, your boundaries truer, your prayer simpler. Desire will feel like alignment instead of accident. That is why the silence has seemed merciless, because it was holding space for rare gold. Too costly to spend on hands that cannot carry it. So if you have ever found your body drawing a curtain across a scene your mind believed you wanted, remember what is actually happening. You are not broken. You are being guarded by the wisdom you prayed for. Abstinence in your story is never about deprivation. It is about conservation of light, of power, of the exact frequency you will need when destiny finally knocks. And yet the silence has a twin lesson. Because while some chosen are sealed from counterfeit unions, others keep finding themselves magnetized toward the wounded, hearts that bleed quietly, souls that ache loud. Which draws us into the next revelation. Habit 3, the magnetic attraction to wounded souls. You've noticed it. A crowded room, a dozen bright laughs, and somehow your eyes find the one person whose smile doesn't quite reach. Before your mind can reason, your chest leans forward. It isn't a fantasy of rescue or a hunger for chaos. It is an ancient reflex waking up. The chosen carry a tuning fork for pain. You read the air the way sailors read the sea. You feel undertow behind charm, tension braided into silence, the weight someone hides behind perfectly chosen words. And your field responds not because you are weak, but because your presence is medicine. To the hurting, you feel like oxygen. They don't know why they sleep better after your voice touches the room, why their shoulders drop when you sit beside them, why the noise in their head lowers when you pray out loud or simply breathe slow. You didn't try to be a healer. Your coherence does the work. This is sacred and dangerous, Because if you forget the line between witness and well, you will begin to hand them water drawn from your blood instead of your source. What began as love can tip into a transaction. You give until you flicker. They leave feeling lighter, not knowing the bill was paid with pieces of you. Sex magnifies this pattern. What should be mutual offering can become ritual sacrifice. You enter their ache as if it were a temple to be restored, and in the morning you are the one in ruins. They walk away steadier. You are left sewing yourself back together with silence. It is not that they are villains. Most simply don't know how to hold what you bring. They came starving and you cooked the feast. But you cannot keep serving your essence on plates meant for lessons. Here is the harder truth that frees. Often the magnet is a mirror. You are drawn to their wound because some echo of it still lives in you, however faint. You hope that by mending them your own seam will finally close. Compassion becomes camouflage for a deeper bargain you never intended to make. Recognizing this does not cancel your calling to be kind. It clarifies how you must carry it. You cannot heal yourself by subcontracting your repair to someone else's redemption arc. You cannot find your center by living at the edge of their storm, so you learn a new posture. You stand close enough for your calm to be contagious, far enough that your life does not become their life raft. You listen without merging. You bless without binding. You let your yes be clean and your no be kind. You remember that your assignment is presence, not possession. Invitation, not invasion. And you let attraction be tested by fruit. If your peace thins, step back. If your clarity shrinks, slow down. If your joy becomes a tool you use to keep them from breaking, you have wandered into rescue, not relationship. The magnet will quiet as you mend the mirror. You will still sense the ache in the room, but it will no longer conscript you. Your empathy will grow teeth, tender and discerning, able to say, I love you, and I will not trade my wholeness to prove it. Strangers will still tell you their stories. Children and animals will still drift toward your lap, but your giving will come from overflow, not depletion. And your sleep will return to you whole. If you recognize yourself in this, if you can name the times you mistook intensity for intimacy, crisis for chemistry, rescue for romance, write it somewhere you can see it. Not to bruise yourself with blame, but to break the spell. Your confession becomes a map for someone else's escape, and your new boundaries become the doors through which a different kind of love can finally arrive. Because beyond this habit lies an older practice, one the ancients guarded with reverence, when sexuality stops chasing wounds to suture and becomes a rite that opens the body to light. Not performance, not escape, initiation. Where union is prayer, breath is altar, and energy is guided like a river toward awakening rather than spent trying to keep someone from drowning. That is the next threshold. And once you cross it, you will never confuse healing with hooking or holiness with hunger again. Habit 4. Sexual rituals as portals of energy activation. For most, sex begins and ends at the skin. A bright spark, a quick eclipse, a breath that rises and drops back into ordinary air. For the chosen, it refuses to stay that small. Intimacy becomes ceremony. Breath becomes liturgy. The body becomes a temple whose doors swing open to weather from another world. In your hands, desire stops behaving like a craving and starts behaving like a key. You don't merely touch a person, you touch a current. You don't simply have a moment, you open a passage, and through that passage, something larger than two people moves. A tide, a voltage, a sky. Long before modern culture flattened sexuality into entertainment, the old ones guarded its language like fire. Moon-taught priestesses, desert prophets, tantric adepts, village shamans, each held the same secret in different tongues. When feminine and masculine meet in conscious union, they are not trading pleasure. They are generating creation. The veil thins. A living wire hums from earth to heaven through the human frame. You feel this even without a teacher. You find yourself dimming the lights not for mood but for reverence, drawing breath together until your rhythms rhyme, seeing colors bloom behind closed eyes, speaking words that sound less like seduction and more like prayer. These aren't affectations. They're memory. Your soul remembers that sex, handled awake, is not an act, it's a spell. Inside that spell, every motion arranges itself into geometry. Pace becomes pattern, touch becomes tone. Breath clicks tumblers in hidden locks. Release isn't an ending, but ignition. The brief death of the small self so the larger self can light the room. And yet power without purity will always fracture. To open a portal casually is to invite whatever is hungry to step through. Practice without humility curdles into compulsion. Curiosity without consecration collects visitors you never meant to host. That is why the ancients trained character before technique. They demanded shadow work, truth-telling, clean motives, because in unsteady hands this fire scorches. In steady hands it anoints. When you come to the altar clear, sexual ritual stops extracting and starts offering. You stop using energy and begin channeling it. You give it shape. You choose its aim. Pleasure becomes medicine released into your body and beyond it, healing, creating, steadying what panic once ruled. In those moments, intimacy refuses to stay carnal. It goes cosmic. You can feel the architecture clicking into place, the way presence builds rooms where fear can't breathe, the way agreement thickens the air with peace, the way your combined voltage writes a brighter pattern into tomorrow. If you've ever felt the instinct to treat union as something holy, to set the space with care, to breathe with intention, to disappear not into numbness but into a clearer kind of aliveness, that isn't drama, it's design. Your spirit remembers how this is supposed to work. But even this is not the end of the map. Beyond ritual, there is a deeper conversion, where desire is no longer simply directed but transfigured, lifted from appetite into assignment, from heat into holy purpose. Habit 5. The transfiguration of desire into divine purpose. There comes a quiet turn on this path when sex stops orbiting the body at all. It outgrows unseen encounters, outlasts long silences, even surpasses ritual craft. The fire you once tried to satisfy begins asking a new question, and the question changes everything. It is no longer who will meet my hunger, but what will I create with this flame? Desire ceases to be fuel for moments and becomes fuel for mission. Most of the world is taught to treat longing like a problem. Feed it, fight it, or flee it. The chosen are taught to steward it. You don't douse the fire. You lift it. You don't suppress the current. You give it work to do. Passion stops ending in a bed and starts spilling into a canvas, a page, a melody, a classroom, a clinic, a kitchen table where strangers become family. Your voltage turns outward, into art that outlives you, into healing that keeps traveling after you've gone to sleep, into words that steady hands you'll never hold. In that economy, orgasm is a spark that lights a lamp, and the lamp keeps burning long after the spark is gone. This is why the wisest mystics spoke of chastity as transfiguration rather than repression. Not the burial of desire, but its coronation. The body becomes an altar, not a battlefield. The flame becomes incense, not wildfire. You've already tasted this. If you've ever felt a swell of longing, convert mid-breath into a poem that wrote itself, a solution that arrived whole, a tenderness that compelled you to build rather than to burn. Those weren't detours from desire. They were its true destination. Proof that your sensual energy was never meant to trap you in flesh, but to propel you into spirit-led creation. The end of the journey looks like this. You stop chasing union to feel alive and you become union, alive in your making, alive in your serving, alive in the way your presence calms weather. Desire becomes devotion. Pleasure becomes prayer. Sexuality becomes one of the primary ways the divine moves through you to mend the world right around your feet. What you once labeled chaos reveals itself as choreography. What you carried as shame resolves into a map. The flame you feared would consume you turns out to be the crown you were always meant to wear. So look back without regret and forward without hurry. Bless the versions of you who learned each lesson the long way. Keep the practices that make you clear. Truth spoken gently, boundaries kept kindly, work offered with clean hands, rest guarded like treasure. When the right person stands at your threshold, you won't need spectacle to know. Your body will remain soft and safe. Your spirit will stay bright and anchored. Your peace will not negotiate. And if no one stands there today, the fire is not wasted. It will keep becoming words, mercy, structure, song. If this feels less like new information and more like remembrance, mark it. Breathe deep. Say it out loud so your bones can hear you. I was never meant to survive my fire. I was meant to steward it. Then live as if that's true, because it is. Now that the veil has lifted, the story you once carried like a handful of disconnected fragments resolves into a single, living thread. The midnight electricity you could not name, the long winters of holy abstinence that felt like exile, the magnetic pull toward the wounded that broke you open and taught you to see, the instinct to treat passion as prayer, the final transfiguration of desire into devotion, into mission, into creation. None of it was random. None of it was punishment. It was initiation, meticulous, merciful, exact. What looked like contradiction becomes curriculum. What felt like delay becomes design. You were never fashioned for shallow waters. Your body is not merely flesh. It is a threshold, a consecrated doorway through which worlds converse. Your desire is not a leash to drag you around. It is the river that turns turbines when you align the gates. Your silence is not a void. It is a sanctuary where blueprints are drafted in light. That is why ordinary rules never fully explained you. That is why some people labeled your reverence as reluctance, your discernment as difficulty, your depth as drama. They did not meet your lack. They met your altar. And an altar makes the unprepared nervous. Let the old verdicts fall away now. Too much, too little, too sensitive, too guarded. These names no longer fit. The seasons when your body refused entry were not failures. They were vows your soul protected while you slept. The encounters with the invisible were not madness. They were proof that your temple is registered on maps bigger than geography. The pull toward broken souls was not proof you are doomed to fix what harms you. It was a mirror asking you to call your own pieces home. The urge to ritualize intimacy was not oddity. It was memory, the soul's muscle memory of sacred technology. From this point forward, let desire be compass, not court. If it rises and your breath lengthens, follow it. If it rises and your sight narrows, bless it and let it cool. You are done chasing sparks that demand more oxygen than they give. You are tending flame, quiet, steady, sufficient to warm a house. You will notice how life rearranges itself around this coherence. Conversations shed their costumes. Your work carries voltage without burning you. Your rest stops apologizing and becomes holy ground. Boundaries stop sounding like barbed wire and begin behaving like doors on smooth hinges. Open to what honors your altar, closed to what taxes your light. Do not fear your past. Harvest it. The nights you mistook hunger for compatibility taught your palate the taste of counterfeit. The seasons of abstinence taught your gates how to close without hardening. The times you poured yourself thin taught your hands to pour without leaking. Nothing is wasted in a life offered to the divine. You are not disqualified. You are qualified by fire. You are not behind. You are precisely on time because wisdom arrives at the speed of honesty, and your honesty has become luminous. Let this knowing move from idea to embodiment. Keep a daily stillness where your breath becomes your teacher and your altar. Let your body move in ways that wring static out of your nerves and invite current back in. Treat sleep as obedience, not luxury. Rested temples hear clearer hymns. Feed your creativity like a newborn. Your desire wants to build as much as it wants to bond. Speak one clean truth each day, even if only to yourself. Practice blessing where you once would have chased, and releasing where you once would have clutched. These small fidelities are how a crown is worn without strain. When love approaches, and it will because what is rightly tended grows, you will recognize it by the atmosphere it brings. Safety without sleep, warmth without fog, curiosity that listens, honesty that costs something to say and is said anyway. Your body will not have to argue with your spirit. They will nod at one another like old friends. There will be reverence for the altar you are, not an appetite to spend you into silence. Even conflict will feel different. Not a court where punishments are handed down, but a laboratory where truth is measured, where repair is practiced, where tenderness grows teeth and courage grows kindness. This does not exempt you from weather. It equips you for it. Predators will still admire your light from a distance. Counterfeits will still practice your language in a mirror. Loneliness will occasionally knock, pretending to be urgency. But you have learned the sound of your center. You have learned that anxiety, when baptized and listened to, often becomes information. You have learned that urgency is the enemy's favorite disguise and that peace is God's native tone. You have learned that you do not need to choose before wisdom has finished her sentence. If shame tries to reattach itself, answer it with detail. Name what you learned, not what you lost. Name the boundaries you can hold now without bitterness, the tenderness you can offer now without collapse, the creative work that would not exist had you not walked through the valley. If grief visits, set a chair for it. Let it rinse you instead of defining you. If yearning swells, do not sprint. Breathe it up your spine and into your hands. Put it into a paragraph, a painting, a prayer. Let it become something you can bless. Your sexuality has graduated from biography to liturgy. Some days it will pour into art that finds strangers in their private midnights and convinces them to stay. Some days it will become a patience that holds a friend together while their old world falls apart. Some days it will be breath and light and quiet, an invisible climate your presence carries into rooms that forgot how to exhale. And on the holy days when it meets a worthy counterpart, it will sanctify as much as it satisfies. Two altars facing one flame, two spines steady under one wind, two lives choosing service over spectacle. Understand the scale of what is happening. You are not only healing your story, you are repatterning a line. When you refuse to merge where your peace cannot breathe, you teach future mouths the taste of consent. When you honor the altar of your body, you raise the price of entrance for your bloodline. When you treat desire as devotion, you remind the world that pleasure need not be predatory to be powerful. Quiet choices echo louder than headlines. A temple kept is a city steadied. Mark this hour if your bones recognize it. Write 99 below to seal the end of secrecy and the beginning of sovereign clarity, the completion of an old loop and your consent to be reborn. Do it as a private vow in public light. I retire the story that called my fire a flaw. I remember who I am. I will carry this current clean. And subscribe now so the next teachings arrive when your road asks for them. You are not meant to walk this remembering alone. Your tribe is converging. People who will recognize your music before you speak, who will not be frightened by the size of your tenderness, who will treat your boundaries as doors to knock, not walls to scale. Carry this benediction in your breath. May your fire stay clean and your peace stay loud. May your desire become devotion and your pleasure become prayer. May your body remember it is a doorway and your soul remember it is a home. May every union you enter honor the altar you are. May every silence make you more spacious, not more small. May every creation you birth become evidence that the divine is still crossing the bridge of your life to bless this world. And when the old world tests you, as it will, with echoing invitations and familiar storms, return to the map you hold inside. Peace before proof. Presence before performance, purpose before pattern. Lift your head, steady your jaw. Let your eyes carry the kind light that makes rooms tell the truth. Wear your crown without spectacle. Guard your temple without fear. Let your life be the sermon. Desire redeemed, love made intelligent, power made gentle. The secret is no longer hidden. It lives in you, it walks with you, it speaks in the way your footsteps refuse to rush. The world is waiting for the light only you can release, and now you know exactly how to open your hands and let it shine.